Hey, we back at it again. I'm gonna get straight into it. We got the defense budget proposal for 2026. This came out like about a week ago, but I've been doing some research, going through it, just trying to see because I am kind of in a field that pertains to this here topic. All right. So the defense budget proposal, we got an article I'm gonna go through, and then we're gonna kind of chop it up about the matters and see what's good with it. So without further ado, let's go. All right. So we got Trump calls for record $1.5 trillion defense budget, a 50% jump. Man, that's a huge number. That's a big number, man. So let's see what the article talking about. Let's see what we got. So President Donald Trump on Wednesday declared he would ask Congress for a $1.5 trillion defense budget in 2027, a massive $500 billion increase from this year's Pentagon budget. The huge boost likely reflects how expensive some of Trump's military ambitions are, from the Golden Dome air defense effort for from the Golden Dome air defense effort to his call for a new battleship design. Neither of those programs could be fully funded under current spending levels. I get that. The president provided few details in his post on Truth Social, other than to say the money would pay for his dream military. His dream? All right. Trump did suggest that tariff revenues could cover the increase, but even if he managed to circumvent Congress' constitutionally mandated power over spending, existing tariff collections would still be several $100 billion short of what the president plans to ask for. While finding $500 billion in new spending would prove difficult, Trump and some congressional Republicans appear confident they could do so. The budget reached $1 trillion this year, thanks to $150 billion in new money Congress voted to pour into Pentagon covers via a reconciliation bill. Although much of that would be spread out over the next 5 years on various long-term projects. Lawmakers have yet to complete a defense spending bill for this fiscal year, although a final agreement is expected to increase Trump's budget request by several billion dollars. Some Republicans have long argued for significant annual increases in Pentagon funding, with a top line total of around 5% of GDP, up from the current 3.5%. Republican Don Bacon, I guess he's a Republican in Nebraska, called Trump's aspirations a good news story after his administration proposed budget's defense hawks on Capitol Hill saw as lacking. We think we need a permanent 4% of GDP or better, Bacon said. That's what it's going to take to build our Navy, our Air Force, our ICBMs, our bombers, and take care of troops. I hope the part about taking care of troops is for sure, because it just sounds like, never mind. The 2026 budget only reached $1 trillion due to the $150 billion added on by Congress. That one time infusion gave a boost to Golden Dome, as well as new initiatives to build more precision guided munitions and air defense weapons. But the funding will need to be included in year on year spending legislation, something Trump's new proposal appears to take into account. Trump's surprise budget announcement came just hours after he sent defense stocks plunging by railing against the performance of major defense companies. Interesting. And I'm gonna leave it right there. And y'all can read the rest of it. It's not that lengthy. It's a little bit left. Well, you know what? Let's finish it up. In another social media post, Trump said he would not allow defense companies to buy back their own stocks, offer executives large salaries, and issue dividends to shareholders. He also slammed the companies for moving too slowly and charging too much for weapons. They got to make their money too, man. You a businessman, you should know that. But I guess, it's a problem when other people try to get their bag too. A lot of us are saying we want a commitment to sustain spending increase, not just a 1 year, Bacon said. The White House and Republicans had left open the possibility of another party line mega bill that could be used to increase defense spending again this year. It is unclear if GOP leaders are willing to pursue the procedurally and politically arduous approach again while they still maintain control of both chambers of Congress. Republicans will need to use that process again to accommodate even a portion of Trump's request, because Democrats are likely to balk at any move that slashes healthcare benefits, education, and foreign aid in the ways Republicans have sought, said one defense lobbyist. Golden Dome and Golden Fleet are completely unaffordable without budgets of this size, so the administration will need to come up with the numbers to back it up, said the lobbyist, who was granted anonymity to discuss sensitive spending dynamics. But my guess is that the extra money will have to be in reconciliation. House Appropriations Chair Tom Cole from Oklahoma said overall defense spending needs to go up, but wouldn't say if the massive increase pitched by Trump is realistic. I'll take any request the president makes seriously, and we'll see, Cole said. Another senior House appropriator, Representative Steve Womack from Arkansas, held Trump as absolutely right in his own post. For too long, we have underfunded our defense apparatus, undermining our national security and benefiting our foreign adversaries, Womack said. A strong national defense is critical to our long-term prosperity and to protecting our country against every emerging threat. I commend President Trump for his leadership and look forward to working to advance a $1.5 trillion defense bill. Woo! My God. Well, y'all check this out. Like, I have a lot of thoughts about that, but more so on the subject. Like, I did jot down some notes just to kind of see like where we going, what this means for now, and how this would necessarily benefit us in the future if something like this was to go through, right? So let's get straight into it. All right.
A few moments later.
So right here we got a broader context from the ongoing Pentagon and Defense reporting. Okay, so here's what other media outlets are reporting. So we got the U.S. forces, they continue military operations abroad. If you know, then you know how that affects everything that's going on right now. All right. So check this out. U.S. forces continue military operations abroad, ongoing large scale airstrikes against ISIS targets in Syria as part of Operation Hawkeye Strike. You guys seen that. It's been in the news, it's been everywhere. Continue interception and onboarding of sanctioned oil tankers linked to Venezuela. This happened not too long ago. A lot of people was up in arms about it, but I don't get into geopolitical matters because not too many people really understand what's going on in that issue. So I stay out of it for more than one reason. So the defense policy and industry moves. Air Force acquisition changes are expanding drone integration, something we heavily need. Drones are the way of the future on the battlefield. If y'all don't know, if y'all haven't seen, if y'all haven't been keeping up, drones are definitely the way of the future and currently. So we do, I believe, need to pour more into that effort. Trump administration aggressive stance on defense contracts and tech performance, tech, AI, things like that. I have an issue with it just because, you know, computers are flawed based on the designer, right? They can only, I believe, they can only go to the capacity of which they are developed because they're not humans. And if humans are flawed, there has to be some kind of flaw in technology. And that is what I think. I trust the human more so than a machine or a computer any day. Just me. Domestic and personnel news. U.S. Army unveiling new tank prototypes, legislative moves to limit war powers on Venezuela operations. Big, I'm actually in a mechanized unit, so I understand a little bit about that, but I think more so of the capabilities and also for utilization for the upcoming, war fighters and things of that nature. I think that's really big for them to focus on, right? Strategic competition shaping policy. So the Pentagon reports and expert commentary emphasize China and Russia as top strategic military concerns, as it should be. In our country, I can say a lot of us are focused more so on entertainment. While I do appreciate the younger guys for coming up and trying to get blue collar skills and things like that we need, it's still a huge deficit, still a huge gap, right? Because we took our focus off the things that really matter in the country and started focusing more so on getting the power and the elites to where they need to be. Which I guess, like, if you have an agenda, you're gonna forward that agenda. So that's just what it is. But now we see it's kind of hurting us as a whole, and a lot of more important things are falling behind, right? So huge proposed jump from $1.5 trillion for fiscal year 2027. President Trump is pushing for the U.S. military budget to rise next year. Okay, a roughly 66% increase over the current $901 billion budget approved for 2026. The administration describes this as an essential for national security amid troubled and dangerous times. But this level of funding would be far above recent defense budgets and roughly around $500 billion higher than 2026 top line. It talked about that in the article as well. But Trump has formed it as building a dream military, which we also seen in the article, right? And is capable of countering major global threats. Do I think we need that much spending um to combat those threats. I don't think it's necessarily the spending because you have people assigned to these jobs in roles and duties already serving in these capacities. Why not just use those people? Now, I'm assuming they're talking about the contracts and the people on the outside who are doing majority of the work, like to invent these things and come up with these ideas and solve these issues. That's what I'm assuming the spending is for. Because if you don't understand, the contracts rule everything. Just how it is. All right. So this is the thing, like the funding plan and financial matter. Let's talk about that a little bit. The White House claims tariff revenues, which grew significantly in recent years, could cover the increase. Doubt it. However, independent budget watchdogs warn that expected tariff income won't fully cover the extra spending and that the plan could add trillions to the national debt over the next decade. It for sure is. And if you ain't already thinking it, yes, it's gonna come out the taxpayers behind every single time. It's just how I go, man. For sure. Um, Analyst groups like the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimate the proposal could increase deficits by about $5 trillion or more once interest costs are factored in. Now, Moody's analysts also warn such a large increase could widen fiscal deficits and reduce budget flexibility. I believe that wholeheartedly, right? Because it's not always as simple as we think it is. Like, am I an expert on the matter? Not for sure, but it don't take a rocket science. If you understand anything about what's going on, you can see how something starts and where it could progress and potentially end up. Just from what I know and understand. All right. So let's focus on this. What the extra money might be used for. Trying to focus on the necessities of the future, right? While budget details haven't been released yet, reported focuses include major modernization programs, including new weapon system, expanded technological capabilities. I mentioned that earlier, how I do think like tech and AI can be flawed depending on the human development of it, but I do think it is necessary. Um, I'm not gonna go too much into it, but it is necessary for what we have going on now in war fighting. All right. Then we have hypersonic weapons, advanced missile defenses, and expanded air and space force capabilities. For sure. Our Air Force, aircraft, things like that. Yes, we do need to, I believe, continuously develop the technology around that because that is going to be our not main source, but it's going to be a huge part of our war fighting machines. A huge part. Okay. And also the air and missile defenses, like I can tell you from like a little small point. I took a jamming class. If you know, you know, you know what that is. But it's about drones and things of that nature. And I just looked at the machines that we have and all the different things to combat all these different weapons that could be used against us. And I just thought, man, what happens when this technology expands? Like the advantage we're going to have as a nation is far beyond y'all's comprehension if you're a civilian. But it's something that you will want the good guys to have, is what I'm saying. You will want them to have that. Okay. And pressure on defense contractors to reinvest profits into production. Will that happen? It's capitalism, y'all. So let's be honest. Like, do I see that happening? Next subject. All right, so we got political and economic reactions. Like, how are people thinking about this? What's the typical reaction to the subject matter? This proposal is triggering a range of responses. So we have the supporters who argue that increasing defense funding is critical to outpacing China, Russia, and other threats, and to maintaining U.S. military readiness. Military readiness is a huge thing. A huge thing. The ability to rapidly deploy, the ability to have your soldiers come in, learn a weapon system, and be efficient on that, train on it, and be lethal with it. That is a very huge concern, and that is a very big deal when it comes to readiness. And I think it is so imperative that we focus on that. So I do like the supporters in having that concern and really for pushing forward in that argument. But the critics say the planned scale is unrealistic and fiscally risky, warning it could overshot actual national security needs. which could be other things, cybersecurity, border security, things like that. It's a whole bunch that go into national security, but those are the big two that come to my mind when I think about this subject. When they say other actual national security needs, you're like, okay, yeah. Market watchers note defense stocks jumped on the news, reflect the industry expectations of higher defense procurement. I like me personally. I don't really like going into the topic of talking about stocks when we talking about, war and defense and military capabilities and things like that. I don't really like to introduce that because now you got Wall Street playing a part in like what our military get issued and what they are able to have and not have. That's a conversation for another day and probably another time when I'm not serving in my capacity. But I just don't like to think about that. Um, so we have, in comparison to the supporters and the critics, right? The U.S. military budget for 2026 was about 901 billion, right? Already near historic highs. But the proposal to go beyond 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion in 1 year would be one of the largest defense spending increase in decades, which I understand. I'm not gonna get into how the money ties into the other part of it because, like I said, I just don't like thinking about that. I just like to do my job. That's for them way up there to figure out. Okay. But there are some things that concern me necessarily when we're talking about this here subject matter. All of them I'm not at liberty to speak about at this current moment, but I do like the fact that we are discussing this, right? As far as the news and the media goes, I know it's not a big headline or anything like that, but I just wanted to touch on the subject matter and see what was going on in the subject, right? But I have nothing more for y'all. I hope y'all have a great night. Tell me what you think about this down in the comments below. If you like the video, hit the like button. Give me a share, a subscribe, something. You know what I'm saying? But that's all I got for y'all. Y'all have a great night. I'm out.